want you to just think back for a second. The last time you were at a restaurant, or maybe watching a TV show, and a birthday celebration happens.
Oh, I know this moment.
You know it
Right.
exactly. The cake comes out, the lights go down, and then this group of people starts singing something that is almost happy birthday, but just isn't.
It's always that slightly off, legally safe alternative that,
Yeah,
happy birthday from all of us to you, or some other generic jingle that sounds like it was written in about 5 minutes.
exactly. And for years, I just thought, maybe it's a weird cultural thing, or that people just forgot the words. But the real reason is so much more wild, and it's what we're digging into today.
It sounds totally absurd, but for decades, that simple little song, Happy Birthday to You, was at the center of one of the most profitable and intense intellectual property battles in
It
history.
wasn't just a song, it was a massive corporate asset.
A multi-million-dollar corporate asset.
That's the real shocker. A tune that everyone felt belonged to them, to us, was quietly making a fortune for a private company. So today, we're going to trace how this little classroom song became a corporate cash cow, and crucially, how one documentary filmmaker fought back and freed it for all of us.
And this whole saga, I mean, it's a perfect case study in how complicated and, frankly, sometimes ridiculous copyright enforcement can be.
Okay, let's unpack this journey.
Let's do it.
So the story starts, about as far away from a corporate boardroom as you can get. We're talking about a kindergarten classroom in the late 1800s.
Right. In Louisville, Kentucky. And it was created by two sisters, Patty and Mildred Hill. Patty was a kindergarten teacher, and her sister Mildred was a pianist and composer.
And they weren't trying to write a global hit, right? This was a practical tool for the classroom.
Exactly. They just wanted a simple, cheerful little song to start the school day. And so they wrote a tune called Good Morning to All.
And what's incredible is that the melody they wrote is the exact same one we all know. It's that same 8-note tune, but the original lyrics were, very direct.
Yeah, they were just, good morning to all, good morning to all, good morning, dear children, good morning to all. Super simple.
So how did we get from that to happy birthday?
Well, the change happened organically. The tune was just so simple, so catchy that it started to spread. People just, started swapping out the good morning part for happy birthday when the occasion called for it.
So it basically became folklore, a kind of community remix on top of this published melody.
Precisely. And we know this started happening pretty early on. By 1912, you could already find versions of Happy Birthday to You appearing in print, sometimes with no credit at all. The song was already becoming part of the culture.
But of course, where there's culture and popularity, the publishing industry sees an opportunity. And this is where the legal mess really begins.
That's right. Music publishers saw what was happening and started to assert ownership over that new combination, the original Hill melody with the Happy Birthday lyrics.
And after a long, kind of tangled history of sales and acquisitions, the rights eventually ended up with one company, Warner Chappell Music.
And once Warner Chappell had it, they enforced their claim aggressively. They argued the song was protected by copyright well into the 21st century. And their entire legal case, their whole empire really, was built on a single copyright registration from 1935.
Just that one date, 1935, that seems so specific, especially since we know versions were printed way before that.
That 1935 registration is the linchpin of this entire story. For nearly 80 years, Warner Chappell used it to collect licensing fees from basically anyone who wanted to use the song in a commercial setting. A filmmaker, a TV producer, even a restaurant chain.
So if you wanted a birthday scene in your movie, you had to cut them a check.
You had to pay. And most people did, because who's going to challenge a massive corporation over something like that? It's the inertia of intellectual property law. Once a claim is asserted, everyone just kind of assumes it's legitimate.
But the money here is what's truly staggering. We're talking about a huge operation. At its peak, the song was reportedly pulling in over $2 million a year.
$2 million a year in royalties. Think about that. Every time a sitcom character blows out their candles, every time a movie includes the song, a fee was paid. That revenue was built entirely on people being either unable or, unwilling to fight the claim.
Which brings us right back to the restaurants. That's exactly why they sing those weird substitute songs.
Absolutely. They weren't trying to be quirky. They were actively dodging a potential lawsuit that could cost them thousands of dollars. It was just a simple cost-benefit analysis. It's cheaper to write your own goofy jingle than it is to pay Warner Chappell's fee.
It just feels like someone should have challenged this earlier. A big movie studio has deep pockets. Why did it take so long?
Because challenging a copyright claim like this is incredibly expensive and time-consuming. Most people just found it easier to pay the fee or use an alternative. It needed someone with a very specific motivation to actually dig in and do the historical research.
And that someone, amazingly, turned out to be a documentary filmmaker.
Jennifer Nelson in 2013. She
Oh,
was
yeah.
making a film about the song, and when she was told she'd have to pay a hefty fee to use it, she decided to fight back. Instead of writing a check, she filed a class action lawsuit.
And that lawsuit kicked off what was basically a historical detective story, right? Her legal team had to go digging through old archives.
A massive investigation. They were looking at old songbooks, copyright registrations, publishing contracts, anything that could prove the true origin of the lyrics and melody. They were looking for the smoking gun.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. What did they actually find? What was the flaw in that 1935 registration?
They found the fatal flaw. The investigation revealed that the registration Warner Chappell was relying on, that crucial 1935 document, it didn't actually cover the song itself.
Wait, what do you mean? What did it cover?
It appeared to cover only a specific piano arrangement of the song, a particular way of playing it with certain chords and notations. It didn't grant them ownership of the basic melody or, critically, the lyrics that everyone had been singing for decades.
So let me see if I've got this straight. It's like they owned the copyright to a very specific recipe for a chocolate cake, but not for the concept of chocolate or cake itself.
That is a perfect analogy, exactly. They owned the sheet music for one particular professional performance. They did not own the core ingredients, the melody and the lyrics, which had already been out in the world, published in books without a proper copyright notice, since the early 1900s.
So the company was charging millions for a song they never really had a valid claim to in the first place.
That was the argument. The original Good Morning to All melody was already in the public domain. And, crucially, their investigation found no clear, enforceable copyright that ever covered the lyrics Happy Birthday to You.
So the case finally goes to a judge in 2015.
It does, and U.S. District Judge George H. King delivered the landmark ruling. He found that Warner Chappell did not, in fact, own a valid copyright to the lyrics and melody of the song.
And just like that, the whole thing came crashing down.
The empire crumbled. The judge concluded that the song was, and had been, in the public domain. And this wasn't a case of a copyright expiring. It was a ruling that the copyright claim was never valid to begin with.
That is just incredible. A filmmaker brings down this multi-million-dollar industry just by tracing the paperwork.
It's a huge victory for common sense. And after that ruling, Warner Chappell knew the game was up. They didn't even try to appeal. They agreed in 2016 to a settlement.
A pretty big one,
A very big one. A $14 million settlement.
Wow. 14 million. Who did that money go to? I mean, how do you even track down everyone who ever paid that fee?
Well, the money was set aside to reimburse the thousands of people and companies, the filmmakers, the producers, the businesses who had paid those licensing fees over the years, specifically since 2009.
So today, for you, for me, for anyone listening, what is the official status?
Today, Happy Birthday to You is officially in the public domain in the United States. And that means you can sing it, you can record it, you can put it in your YouTube video or your independent film without asking permission or paying a dime. It's free.
That's a huge relief for creators everywhere. No more awkward, legally safe jingles.
But we should add the usual caveats here. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's important to know that while the core song is free, specific new arrangements or sound recordings can have their own separate copyrights.
Right, so if I wanted to use, say, Ella Fitzgerald's specific recording of the song, I'd still have to license that recording from her estate, but not the underlying song itself.
Precisely. The sound recording is its own piece of intellectual property. And, international copyright laws can vary, but the U.S. ruling was so significant that it essentially opened the floodgates globally.
This whole saga just shows how murky copyright law can get, doesn't it? It wasn't some grand conspiracy, just inertia, an old claim that just kept going because no one pushed back.
Exactly. The system relies on the fact that most people don't have the time or the money to challenge a huge publisher. Jennifer Nelson was the exception. She had the motivation to see it through.
So what does this all mean?
It means a couple of things. First, the next time you're in a restaurant and you hear that weird off-brand birthday song, you'll know exactly why. You're witnessing the ghost of a $2 million a year legal claim.
And the second thing?
The second is that when you sing the real happy birthday, maybe a little off-key, surrounded by friends, you are exercising a right that was won back for all of us. You're singing a song that was officially liberated.
And that really leaves you with a final thought to mull over, doesn't it?
It really does. Since the court found that the lyrics to Happy Birthday had no valid copyright, you have to wonder, how many other classic folk songs or, old schoolyard rhymes might be resting on similarly shaky copyright claims, just waiting for someone to dig into the forgotten paperwork? How much more of our shared culture is locked away that really should be free?